Yeah. Well, first of all, let me restate your question. You're talking about the scene of Jesus' crucifixion. When he dies, the veil is torn in two, there's an earthquake, the sun goes black, and then tombs start cracking open, and many holy people walked around and actually spoke to loved ones and people who knew them. This is a passage near the end of Matthew, and it isn't duplicated in the other three Gospels. So what's going on with that? Couple of things. One, something being miraculous and eye-opening alone is rarely enough. See, in the Old Testament, you had the children of Israel leaving Egypt after 12 plagues wiped out all the gods of Egypt. You had a pillar of fire by night so they could see, and a pillar of cloud by day to block the sun. You had manna, you had quail, you had water that was, came out of the rock, bitter water that was made sweet. And every time something, so for example, Pharaoh is coming down on his enemies with his armies and his chariots, and you got Moses, and he says, people, take a good look, because you're never going to see these people again. And then the waters come up and come down, and it drowns the people, and they're so happy that they just sing a song, and they are like, God is the greatest. And I don't even know if it's the next day that they're like, we are so sick of this manna, we want some meat, or your God brought us out this far with the plagues and with the miracles, and he drowned them just so he could kill us by this manna just being so bland and boring. And so part of what happens in the Bible is when people see miracles, if there isn't a message behind it that brings transformation, it isn't unusual for people to say, when the dove descends down on Jesus and the clouds break open, and here is my son whom I loved, some say, it thundered. When Lazarus in chapter 11 of John is raised from the dead, and he was 4 days dead, and when they rolled the stone away, he stank. And he comes out, it says, many cheered, and some went to tell the Jewish authorities what he had done, because they were telling him out because they wanted him gone. When a miracle happens on its own, that isn't of itself enough. Let me give you an example that fills in what's missing in that. So, there's something that absolutely scares the stuffing out of people. And they're running for their lives and they're cowering. They didn't learn anything, for one. So let me give you an example where some people learn something and other people don't. John chapter 9, the man born blind. Jesus heals a man who had never been able to see, and everybody starts arguing, is it him? No, it's not him. Is it him? Is it not him? And the man himself, what do you say of him? He says, well, how could he be a sinner like you're saying? Because he healed my eyes. And one group of people believe in Jesus as a result of that event, and another group of people don't. Whereas when a miracle tends to exist on its own, that may stay for a while, but it may not stick. Just like what happened in a more condensed and intense form with the children wandering of Egypt. The children of Israel wandering in the desert had all these miracles and they didn't change. So when the sky turns black and the veil tears and the people are like, this was the Son of God, and then holy people come out, why don't we see it again? Part of it is I don't see people being changed by it. I see people just being scared by it. And when I get scared by something I don't understand, I'm not necessarily going to learn anything or go around talking about it. That's the shortest I can come up with for something like that, but it's a really good question. It's the kind of thing I'd like to research. Very good. That's very good. Okay, let me amplify that. What Bandley was saying is, you had Pharisees and you had Sadducees. Pharisees were like pastors. They ran synagogues, which are the prototypes of churches. They came up and they explained the Old Testament scriptures. Sadducees were connected to the system back then for sacrificing animals as part of what they had to do back then. So Sadducees only believed the first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Nobody gets raised from the dead in those books. So Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection. They even tried to question Jesus, saying, hey, this man was married to this woman, he had 7 brothers, and he died, and according to our law, if he dies, then his brother has to try to raise offspring with her that are going to be in his name. But then each brother successively marries her, produces no kids, and then dies. And so they try to trick him, and they say, so at the resurrection, which they don't believe in, which one of these 7 men will she be the wife of, since they were all married to her? And Jesus says, you are in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God. Because at the resurrection, men will be neither married nor given in marriages, but will be like the angels in heaven. And he says, and besides that, about the resurrection, haven't you heard what was said in the law of Moses? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So what Bandley was pointing out is this would have been an answer and a response in a physical form for what Jesus argued with them about at the temple, where these people coming out and appearing to many others that knew them, not just strangers, but knew them, would have been another affirmation to those who denied the resurrection. It's very good.